Section 123(3) of the Representation of Peoples Act 1951 says corrupt practices. The following shall be deemed to be corrupt practices for the purposes of this act. The appeal by a candidate or his agent or by any other person with the consent of a candidate or his election agent to vote or refrain from voting for any person on the ground of his religion, race, caste, community, language, or the use of or appeal to religious symbols, or the use of or appeal to national symbols such as the national flag or the national emblem for the furtherance of prospects of the election that the candidate or for prejudicially affecting the election of any other candidate. There is more. The promotion of or attempt to promote feelings of enmity or hatred between different classes of citizens of India on the grounds of religion, race, caste, community or language by a candidate or his agent or any other person with the consent of a candidate or his election agent for the furtherance of the prospects of the election of that candidate or for prejudicially affecting the election of any candidate. So as we start this debate with our panelists this evening, Dalit Kohli, national spokesperson of the BJP and advocate, Waris Pathan will be joining us of the AIMIM, also advocate. Dr. Sunil Kumar Singh of the JDU, Professor Kancha Illaiah, Dalit thinker and author joining us, Aryama Sundaram, senior advocate of the Supreme Court, Sanjay Hegde, senior advocate of the Supreme Court and also petitioner representing one of the parties in this case, and Saba Naqvi, senior journalist. Let's ask Sanjay Hegde and Aryama Sundaram. First, Sanjay Hegde, what is it that the court has said differently than what is already stated as per as the rule books, Sanjay Hegde? How is it that this has been forgotten or never challenged or questioned by what has been practiced since 1951 until 2017?
You see, you read out that section. In that section, there is a very significant word. It says his religion, race, caste, community or language. What does the word his mean? Does it mean the religion of the candidate alone? Or does it mean the religion, the appeal to the religion of the voter, or an appeal against the religion of the opposite candidate? So therefore, there was a lot of debate before the Supreme Court on the very meaning of the word his. The Supreme Court had, in different judgments, given different interpretations. In some judgments, it said that it meant only the religion of the candidate. That therefore, if I stood for an election and I said, I am a Hindu, please vote for me, Hindus, then that would be a corrupt practice. But if, on the other hand, I said that I'm a Hindu, please, people of all religions, vote for me, then it would not be a corrupt practice. There was a lot of confusion. Now the Supreme Court has clarified that appeal to his religion means religion of the candidate, religion of the voter, and religion of the other candidate. So therefore, the broad interpretation has been given. Now, appeals to religion themselves might come within the ambit of corrupt practice. You cannot play identity politics on the basis of religion, race, caste, community, or language. You cannot say, I speak Kannada, therefore all Kannadigas must vote for me. Irrespective of the fact that I may not be speaking Kannada. So therefore, any kind of appeal on all these sectarian grounds of identity politics, they might come within the ambit of corrupt practice.
So how does this change the dynamics, Aryama Sundaram? What happens to the political parties?
Well, let me just take it forward from what Sanjay has just pointed out. You see, let's not forget that much turned on the wording of the section, which is why this judgment came out by a wafer-thin majority, and I repeat the word wafer-thin. A 4-3 majority, 3 judges of the Supreme Court distinctly felt that they cannot rewrite the section. The section is clear, the meaning was clear. Going back to Justice J.S. Verma's judgment in the famous Hindutva case, even he had referred to his religion as being personal to the candidate. Now the point is, the Supreme Court has now taken it further. There's no doubt that this is a very good forward step for making us a more socially unified society, to see that we are truly secular, everything. But I'm afraid that perhaps this is very utopian, because practically you're going to find a lot of problems in implementing it. Let me give you 3 examples. For example, a candidate of one of the minority parties stands up and says, I believe that the Constitution should be amended to give this minority party more seats or give a certain number of seats. Let us say another candidate stands up and says, look, Dalits have been repressed in this country for a very long time. We want to give more subsidies and greater advantages to Dalits because Dalits have been repressed very long. Another political party down in the south, let's say in Tamil Nadu, says, I believe that Tamil should be made the state language, and since most people speak Tamil, we should make it the official language of communication in Tamil Nadu. Do these become corrupt practices under 123(3)? I'm afraid that the majority judgment is now going to be open to a great deal of interpretation in future. That as a concept it is great. What is aimed for is fantastic. But I wonder whether it is practical of implementation, which is perhaps why Parliament decided to use the word his rather than give it a broader base. And that's what the minority said. Let's not rewrite the law, let Parliament do it. But the Supreme Court has now given it a more socialist concept, a more secular, a wider base. Well, let's just hope it's workable.
Is it workable or not? Nalin Kohli of the BJP, let me ask you, Nalin Kohli, what the government stand and what several BJP governments in Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan submitted to the Honorable Supreme Court. They said that the Representation of People Act does not need any further interpretation, either to expand the scope of the provision or to compress the same. They also said his in this phrase refer to the religion, caste, community, language of the candidate and the election agent and nobody else. So you were looking for a very narrow definition which the Supreme Court today has set aside. What did the learned Additional Solicitor General Tushar Mehta also tell the Supreme Court? He said that religion is not an anathema to the constitution of a diverse country, which is religion in nature. So for the BJP, this verdict, does it come as a huge setback because the UP elections are around the corner, Nalin Kohli, and the fact that your entire argument in court was that his referred only to the candidate's religion, not the religion of the people he was addressing or the caste of the people he was addressing? Will this be a setback for somebody who talks about the mandir construction, somebody who talks about caste combinations in Uttar Pradesh and in Punjab as a major, benchmark for fighting elections in these states?
First of all, I don't think judgments are setbacks. Judgments are what now has to be in terms of moving ahead. And I think first Sanjay Hegde and then Mr. Sundaram kind of pointed out a background to what it is. Let's now look at the implications. Now there's a broad parameter. What has been argued does not now hold. It will be part of somewhere the submissions. I have not read the judgment yet, so I can't make a structured comment. However, even putting that aside, now what matters is how the Supreme Court has interpreted something. Section 123(3) continues. There's no change. So now politically, I think it brings everyone on a level footing. Because, it's not restricted only to say A religion or B religion or C. It's about religion per se. Then it also goes into caste, it goes into language, other issues. So essentially it is saying that, which is the constitutional spirit. The constitutional spirit is very clear that you treat Indians as Indians, you don't treat or differentiate them on any manner. You treat them as all equals, as Indian citizens. So therefore it's saying put politics on the same platter. So how is it a setback to the BJP? If anything else, I look at it on the contrary. Today, if you hear Prime Minister Narendra Modi's speech in Lucknow, you clearly say he's saying rise above caste, rise above creed. Why don't we bring development as the focus? What was the agenda of 2014? So I think
that wasn't your argument in court, Nalin Kohli.
Has already been
that wasn't your argument in court, Nalin Kohli. That was not what Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan said in court.
Yes,
so are you saying that just because the judgment has come today, you'll take this lofty position that you are the champions of development?
Well, I mean, the only person in Uttar Pradesh speaking about development is the BJP, and the Prime Minister today made it clear. Play his bite and you will know what does not. That bite or his speech, if you pick up that particular statement, which other channels are showing, clearly, unequivocally, actually encapsulates exactly what you're debating about. And two,
This is not a lofty position or argument in court or something like that. On a political platform, he's made it. It's not a submission to the court. The submissions to the court are well done and over with. By that standard, nobody can ever argue anything after a judgment comes.
Or Nalin Kohli, did Prime Minister show the way to everybody else how to make the references without invoking the ire of the honorable top courts? Because he made the reference of Baba Saheb Bhimrao Ambedkar, but he made it in the reference of the Bhim Act and in terms of the architect of the constitution. Then he also made the reference of 14 saal ka banwas, but he talked it. He made the reference not in terms of Ram, Lord Ram, but he did it in the thing that the BJP is out on a 14-year banwas. So there are ways to work around it. But my larger question, Nalin Kohli, is: will political parties be able to rise above identity politics? Will they be able to rise above religion? Will they be able to think about polls and electoral dynamics beyond vote bank?
Three comments. Article 19, which is about right to freedom of expression and speech, does not put a zip on us. Those reasonable restrictions are very narrow in that sense. So obviously people are going to speak, politicians will speak, journalists will speak, you will interpret, and you have a right to interpret, even though that interpretation may be way beyond what we may as political parties believe that to be the correct position. But that doesn't matter. Second is, the point you're saying, will others change? I think when you come down to a position like this, Aryama Sundaram says, yes, it's a lofty ideal, but why shouldn't there be a lofty ideal? And why shouldn't we move on that lofty ideal? Because the constitution is a lofty ideal too. It undertakes, there is change, there will happen change over a period of time, there will be amendments. This will also find its own ground. But till you have an ideal to chase, how can you know what are the problems, the pitfalls? Just because we fear the pitfalls and we don't have an ideal, that is equally or perhaps even more worse. So as far as I see it, this currency has been on. The debate whether development should be there as the primary focus on which elections should be held has been going on for a long time. Now perhaps it's going to get a new fillip and a push. I've said Prime Minister Modi has done that in 2014.
Okay, let me take that question to Waris Pathan.
Can I just cut in with one thing?
Waris Pathan. Yes, Aryama Sundaram.
Can I just cut in with one thing? I'm just a bit amused. While I always compliment my friend Nalin for being a very, very able lawyer, I'm a bit confused as to his stand now, which seems to be completely contrary to the stand that they took in the Supreme Court. Well, I'm glad.
That's the point.
Maybe Mr. Kohli today feels that their stand was not lofty enough earlier, and today his stand is very lofty, and maybe he feels that
the Supreme Court has given a judgment which is completely diverse to the position that the BJP took in court, but we see the BJP still, welcoming the entire decision. But let me...
Just a sentence.
Okay, Nalin Kohli, I'll allow you that.
Just a sentence, Navika. It won't take more. Well, the first part, Mr. Sundaram, thank you for the compliment. I mean, he's my senior in court. But the question here is, Mr. Sundaram, we all argue as advocates a point of view that are our instructions. When I'm speaking here, don't forget I'm also the BJP spokesperson and not arguing in court. So sometimes wearing two hats may seem confusing, but I'm clear, I'm not confused.
When the ASG was putting his points in front of the court, also he was putting the point of a BJP-led government, Nalin Kohli. So fool no one with that argument. Nobody is going to get fooled by that argument. But let me take the question to Waris Pathan. Waris Pathan.
But we must also see what the judgment says. But Navika, we need to read the judgment before we can arrive at a conclusion that you're arriving. Because those submissions may have been touched upon. The point is, some of us don't have the benefit of having read the entire judgment yet. So therefore, let's not reject it till we see it.
We read out the arguments given by Additional Solicitor General Tushar Mehta. We read those arguments out.
But so how has the court dealt with it? What has the court commented? What have the dissenting judges said? So we need to see the totality.
To get in Waris Pathan at this point, Nalin Kohli, please allow me to get in Waris Pathan. Waris Pathan, it was just yesterday that Asaduddin Owaisi, who is campaigning in Mumbai for the Mumbai civic polls, who said, in the area of Madanpura, Bhendi Bazar, Jogeshwari, Santa Cruz, Bandra, Govandi, where, the entire minority community appeals for votes are made. He said that the total BMC budget is about 37,000 crore, and because there is a population of 21% of Muslims, so 7,770 crore should be the allocation that goes only for the benefit of Muslims. Now, is that the narrow ground on which you are going to campaign in future elections after the Supreme Court judgment today? Because what Asaduddin Owaisi said yesterday could today be seen as contempt of the court.
See, what yesterday Mr. Asaduddin Owaisi said at the Nagpada Junction public meeting was clear. He said that out of the 37,000 crore budget which is allocated to the BMC, 7,70,070 crore budget should be given to 21% of the population, which comprises of the minority. Now he had segregated everything. That why? He showed them that there are certain municipal schools which have been shut down. There are certain municipal hospitals which are not working. There are roads which are to be developed. So this budget has to be sanctioned.
Well, he didn't talk of minorities. He specifically said Muslims.
Christians, Sikhs, and
he specifically said, and let me read out what he said. He says MIM will field candidates mostly in Muslim pockets like Madanpura, Bhendi Bazar, Jogeshwari, Santa Cruz, Bandra and Govandi. And he also said Muslims comprise 21% of the population in Mumbai metropolitan region. So therefore, out of the 37,000 crores, 7,770 crores should be kept aside for Muslims. He refers to the fact that they are Muslims. That is the point I am raising, Waris Pathan. After the Supreme Court's judgment, can you give speeches like this?
To ask a question to the government, that to ask the government that why the funds have not been allocated and why the schools and hospitals have been shut down, and yet given the address also, is this an offence? See,
No,
earlier also
not at all.
there was the
Waris
People
Pathan.
Representative Act, but these people were using Hindu.
No. Waris Pathan, the point
please
is.
kindly understand.
No. Given the dynamics
Kindly
today,
allow me to say, sir.
You are
if we ask the
AIMIM.
government, do we continue any harm?
No,
do we commit any
Waris Pathan, please
illegality?
understand. Does this judgment today cause a huge problem for you, because you are AIMIM, Waris Pathan, and your constituency very clearly is the Muslim constituency.
Can I?
You're working and you feel that's where you get your votes from. But my point is, does the Supreme Court ruling today put you in a huge problem?
Mr. Anand,
because you cannot now represent and play Muslims versus others card now.
No.
You can't play that card. Does do you
Kindly
realize
allow me
that?
to say, Mr. Anand, the constituency which I represent consists only 38% of the Muslim population. The 62% population are from the other caste, Christian. If I get a fund allocated,
so you don't need to. So you're answering your own. You're telling your own. You're telling your own party chief. Stop playing the Muslim card because it's not necessary to do that. You can win without that also.
Why are we blamed for playing Muslim card?
So
if
can I
asking
say
for
one thing,
development
Anand?
of the,
Yes, Saba.
and there are judgment.
Yes,
you have seen the report,
Saba,
Ranganathan committee report,
do you think
Sachcha
today
report,
both
every
political
person
parties
said
of
that
the right
Muslims
and
are
of the
backward socially and
minorities are
educationally.
both finding it difficult to explain their position, Saba, because
So, why
BJP
don't
on
you
the
see
one
that?
side, having argued the exact opposite in court, today is welcoming the judgment, saying that they are in any case the champions of development. Waris Pathan on the other side is now talking about generalities. He's talking about the fact that he is only talking about a section of the society, when it is very clear that the exact statements of Asaduddin Owaisi were actually alluding to Muslims, and Muslims in specific. Is that something that these political parties will now be able to do, or as Aryama Sundaram pointed out, it's going to be left to interpretation of the judgment by various law enforcing agencies?
Yes.
So can I reply now without an interruption, because it's a complicated issue. Can I?
Yes, please.
वारिस भाई मुझे बात करने दीजिए थोड़ा सा. हाँ मुझे बात करने दीजिए.
Please go on. I'm sorry.
Navika, if there is one, I will say this at the front. If we cleanse political system from all of this, great. But it is utopian. And I will just say, if there is a spectacular success in Indian politics of using religion and reaching the very top, it is the Bharatiya Janata Party. If they wish to change, as Nalin Kohli says so, forget about the Prime Minister. I want to know what Yogi Adityanath, Sakshi Maharaj and all will say. I am not defending Waris, Pathan or a Dalit party, but any section of society has a right to ask for rights on the basis of saying they have been discriminated upon. That does not, are we saying that weaker sections, be it tribals, be it Adivasis, be it Dalits, you think their concerns cannot be articulated if there is historical discrimination?
No,
I'm not defending AIM, but the principle
articulating Saba Naqvi, articulating and raising the issue is one aspect.
I will defend that.
No, articulating and raising the issue of marginalized communities, marginalized groups is one aspect. But to make that a political plank, make that an electoral plank, make it a vote bank, and to define your electoral politics based on that, that's what the court has said. That's wrong.
No,
because you have to talk about India as the identity, Indian as the identity. Or do you believe? Or do you believe there needs to be some?
I hope we can do that.
Or do you believe that in India it is impossible? Because
I hope you can do that, Anand. Anand, I hope you can do that, but please remember, historically, analytically, all over the world, sociologists, historians will tell you it is the majority communalism that represents a greater threat. I'm not saying there is no communalism of all nature, all communities, but historically, it is always when there is a danger of majority communalism that does represent a threat, and I'm not talking.
Okay, a rebut coming from Nalin Kohli before I go to Professor Kancha Illaiah. Before I go across to Kancha Illaiah, Nalin Kohli, I'll give you a quick rebut to the point Saba was making. You wanted to come in. Yes, Nalin.
No, I think that's a weak argument. What is majority? And let's look at India. I think the challenge, and this question we must touch on later on, I hope after you hear Mr. Kancha Illaiah, is that, why the Hindutva way of life issue, and we should answer it. So I'm going to come to this after you take a detailed thing, but I'll reject that majority, because if I look at India's fabric, completely from a crime perspective, any perspective, I don't agree with Saba's argument in any manner. If anything at all, the fundamentalist elements that are actually troubling globally, including parts of India, either are driven by Maoist philosophy or it's the misuse of Islam. And that's unequivocal, that's data driven, that's empirically provable. There's no doubt about it. I'm not saying that the religion is responsible. I'm just saying
are you connecting crime and terror to a religion? Are you connecting crime and terror to a religion?
No, I said no. I said when she said majority communalism and does it, I'm making the point again, which is very simple, that when you look at it in terms of the global scale, the misuse of Islam by terrorists, and of course Muslims also condemn it. I'm not saying religion is responsible. I'm saying the misuse of it. That's one major problem. And the second one is Maoist driven, left leaning. These are the two major causes of strife across the world. Why try to drag in other things and say sociologists do it?
No. What she's trying to hint out, is that there is an underlying communal angle, majority, minority, in terms of establishing themselves, enforcing themselves, or the fear of persecution. Either ways, it swings both ways. That she says that defines it. That's the underlying.
That's a longer answer. So that's why I said you come back to me on this after you've asked Mr. Kancha Illaiah.
I'll do that. Sanjay Hegde wanted to.
Let me get in Professor Kancha Illaiah. Professor Kancha Illaiah, many a times this argument is based that caste is not personal, whereas religion is. Why is caste not to be considered personal? After all, caste is something that divides our society, that creates divisions within the society just as much as religion does. So, Professor Kancha Illaiah, the question to you is, every time the issue of caste comes up, every time a finger is pointed at, the champion of Dalits in this country, that is Behan Mayawati of the BSP, she always turns back and she says just because she's a Dalit, she's been targeted. Whether when she was wearing those garlands made out of notes of rupees, the question was pointed out on how she could do such a display of wealth, or now when her bank accounts have been looked at very closely and there is 104 crore being deposited into one bank branch account, her defense always has been कि मेरे को दलित की बेटी हूं इसीलिए अटैक किया जा रहा है. So every time if you bring in Dalit ki beti kind of argument, is caste then not personal, not something that divides the society, and is caste something that also after the Supreme Court judgment will be a reference that parties like the BSP will be unable to use?
No, Navika, the whole premises on which the Supreme Court majority judgment is made creates two major problems. One, they have put both religion and caste on the same plane and defined both of them vis-a-vis secularism, which is absolutely not correct, because religions are equal, religions are universal. Caste has come as a construction of inequality of social groups. Now this means that tomorrow the untouchables say that we want representation based on the argument of Ambedkar, who had Scheduled Caste Federation as a political party contesting while constitution was being made. This judgment can say this is wrong, they should be stopped. Now, inequality, oppression is built into caste, which is Indian specific. This cannot be defined in terms of secularism.
But for
now,
that,
this will really make the life of Dalits and backwards very, very miserable.
No, but Mr.
They
Kancha
cannot fight for equality,
Mr.
social
Kancha
justice. Yeah.
Mr. Kancha Illaiah, this has not been done by the courts today.
Yeah.
This is part of the Representation of People's Act, Section 123, since 1951. Caste is inherent in the
Anand, the critical issue there is, I see that the critical issue there is what Sundaram said, that he was representing directly to individual. Now, does it mean that today, based on today's judgment, that a Reddy candidate with a Reddy name, a Brahmin candidate with a Sharma, Shastri, Trivedi, Chaturvedi, if they go with that names, are they not directly appealing in the name of caste to their constituency? Should they remove their caste names or not? Now this has to be cleared by the interpretations again. Now the oppressed castes have a right to mobilize and ask for equality, ask for justice. That's where the notion of social justice
but demanding that,
does it mean
for demanding that, does it require
let me take that to a lawyer. Let me take that to Sanjay Hegde, who was raising his hand. Sanjay Hegde, the point that Kancha Illaiah points out is that the name of any individual in this country also has a reference to the caste. So will a candidate not be able to use his name in toto? Will the surnames not be used? Will allusion to caste completely go? Or as Aryama Sundaram points out, this is once again going to be left to that entire domain of interpretation of the Supreme Court judgment once again, because every name in India does have some connotation or some connection with the caste a person represents.
Let me illustrate this with an example from Dalit politics itself. When Kashiram said that jiski jitni sankhya bari uski itni hissedari, that was essentially an economic argument without reference to particular castes, communities, etc. But on the other hand, when the slogan is tilak tarazu aur talwar usko maro jute char, that would be a direct appeal against caste of certain people. So each case would have to be judged on the facts of each and circumstances thereof. Any election of a candidate in a constituency, whether an appeal is directly based on religion, caste or language, would have to be assessed. You must remember that there is a lot of dog whistling also going on.
Yes.
When the Prime Minister's Chief Minister of Gujarat said Mian Musharraf, he was ostensibly talking about the ruler of Pakistan, but everybody knew what was being said. Therefore, each case would have to be judged on the facts. What the Supreme Court today has done is to give a broad direction. The broad direction is read the section widely. If it is an appeal on the basis of religion, caste or language, either of the candidate or of the opposing candidate, go for them, declare it as a corrupt practice and unseat
Sanjay Hegde, Kancha, Illaiah, Saba, Naqvi want to rebut and so does Sunil Kumar Singh. We'll go across to them in just a bit. Yes, Kancha, Illaiah, you want to
No,
rebut?
Anand,
I have to leave now. Thank you very much.
Anand,
Sunil Kumar Singh,
Anand, I think,
thank you for your patience. Give me 30 seconds.
Clarify or see,
Yes,
just
Kancha, Illaiah.
one sentence. See, take South Africa. If the South African Supreme Court says that on the basis of race, the blacks cannot fight for representation and then defeat the whites, their whole nationalism, their whole transformation would have collapsed. Now, is it not wrong to equate caste with the religion in the judgment? That is the critical question, Mr. Hegde.
No, it's not equating caste with religion. It's trying to say that you cannot divide, you cannot play this divisive politics and divide the electorate on the basis of caste in the guise of in the guise of backing them and raising their concerns or standing up for a marginalized community or caste. That's what they're saying. The misinterpretation and the way electoral dynamics have come forth. Sunil Kumar,
what Navika was saying, just a minute, what Navika was saying was the personal experience of, Mayawati. Now, just 1 minute, personal angle of Mayawati. Leave that aside. If tomorrow under this judgment, Supreme Court says, Bahujan Samaj Party name refers to caste, then what does it mean?
No, it means that if you have decided that on the basis of representing the issues of one particular caste, you stand only for that caste and not for the entire electorate, then there is a question mark. Yes, you have to raise the issues of marginalized communities. Sunil Kumar Singh. Sunil Kumar Singh, where do you stand on
this? The courts are meant for standing by the oppressed.
No, the courts have just expanded the scope of an already existing law which was never interpreted or raised, sir. If this law has to be redefined, and like you say, religion and caste should not be taken in the same breath as far as Article 123 is concerned of the RPA, then that has to be debated in Parliament and it has to be amended. The law has to be amended. It cannot be done by the court. The court has just said that his does not reflect only on the candidate and his agent, but it also extends to the voters. Sir, let me bring in our other panelists, please, sir. 45 minutes into the debate. Haven't got Sunil Kumar Singh. Please allow him a word. Yes, Sunil Kumar Singh.
Now look, first of all, we welcome the decision, the landmark decision of the Supreme Court. And since you have got lots and lots of legal luminaries on the panel, I would just give you some take-home message from the judgment. Number one, the Supreme Court upheld the secular part of the Constitution. Number two, the Supreme Court vindicates the stand of the JDU, its secular credentials, its secular principles, because JDU fights election on the secular note, number one, and
but
number
allies
two,
with those who play the caste card.
In the recent years, you see, the Bihar government has celebrated Chhath, Diwali, the Eid. Now they are celebrating Prakash Parv and Kal Chakra. So all religion, and it has.
So that's no big deal. Every state and every part of the country it is celebrated, and we celebrate all festivals, sir. So please let's not do that. That it's only in Bihar that these festivals are celebrated. But Sunil Kumar Singh, that the minute you ally with you ally with a party which plays the caste card and the communal card and depends on the Yadav votes and the other votes, then by default your principled stand comes under scrutiny. Sunil Kumar Singh, it does come under scrutiny. But the larger question which I'm trying to understand right now.
First, let me.
Go ahead, sir.
And let me complete. Yes. And second thing, the Supreme Court has chastised the party which foments communal trouble for the political gains, and it has only referred to the misuse of the word Hindutva. That's a big thing. That party should take a lesson from the Supreme Court judgment, and they should refrain from using caste, from using religion to garner votes.
Dr. Sunil Kumar Singh, between 1995 and 2014, between 1995 and 2014, you were aligned with the party which was using the common expression and the definition of the word Hindutva as was described by the then Chief Justice of India, J.S. Verma, in 1995. Now, because you are on the other side of the fence, you are suddenly teaching lessons to the BJP? Dr. Sunil Kumar Singh, what
Navika,
about your
there's a
own
difference. I
party?
know.
What about the fight of elections on the grounds of Kurbis, Bhumihars, Yadavs, Muslims, all sorts of combinations? Your alliance partner, the Lalu Prasad Yadav's entire politics has been Muslim Yadav combinations. What about your political party? What about Kurmi Neta Nitish Kumar? What about the caste conundrums that are always brought in with every single candidate that you put up? Are you suddenly saying that you have become holier than thou and you will now, profundities of the entire judgment that has been given by the Supreme Court were always something that you were preaching? Do you want people to believe that, Dr. Sunil Kumar Singh?
Navika, you had two questions. First, let me answer first. When we were in NDA with the BJP, we were working on a common minimum program and the ethos was secularism. We worked on the line of secularism when we were with NDA. When BJP changed its principles, we parted ways. And number two, you are talking about casteism in Bihar. Let me tell you, the government's pole plank is development with justice.
So
there is an inclusive development.
Sunil Kumar Singh, on a lighter note, sometimes this is what happens when you're on the fence. Because sometimes you get आप कभी communal में फंसते हो, कभी caste में अटकते हो. That's what happens. Based on your own allegation on the BJP, you have called them a party which practices communal politics, but you were allied to them for a long time. It is beyond doubt that the RJD practices caste-based politics. Now you are allied with them. So you are stuck between communal and caste, but you can't say that you are principled, sir. Sorry, that argument is a little weak. But Saba Naqvi, you had a point to make before I go to Aryama Sundaram and Nalin Kohli. Yes, Saba Naqvi.
You know, Anand, Navika, the point that I'm not being able to understand at all, and I hope Mr. Aryama Sundaram can enlighten us since you're about to go to him, is that how is this going to be implemented? Case by case, we are going to go to the Election Commission. How is one going to decide this whole matter? There is complete confusion in my mind on this because there was already Representation of People's Act where already you were not supposed to have hate speech, you were not supposed to make communal speeches, but people were doing it and nothing was happening to them.
So can I add to that
That's the point Aryama Sundaram did hint upon when he first made his comments. Aryama Sundaram, the fact is the reaffirmation of the existing law, that is the Representation of People's Act, is something that has been once again upheld, but it creates a whole new Pandora's box on the interpretation. For example, as we said, can a candidate use his own name or not? Because the name does give indication of the caste that he belongs to, of the religion that he may belong to, or the language that he may be speaking. All of these allusions are there in the name of a candidate itself. So can somebody even complain to the Election Commission on the basis of names of candidates?
Well, I think that's taking it a bit extreme, but this is exactly what I started with. You see, what was there to interpret? The section is clear. In the Hindutva judgment, Justice Verma in fact says if he does anything with relation to his judgment. What really came up was, it was a mood of the court that perhaps for the progress of the country, perhaps to reach a utopian India, it is necessary to wide base this completely. Now, the point is the section has remained the same. Till now, his was read as his. Suddenly now, we are now, so as to broad base the section, perhaps towards this great utopian ideal, we are today creating a situation where lots will be left in doubt. A lot of situations will arise. But I must say on this note, what I'm really happy about and what I'm really, well, in my own way amused about is do you notice that every single political party almost which you hear today are all supporting this judgment and saying this is the lofty ideal we all want. This is utopia we all want. Well, if they really mean it, and if all the political parties are so happy about it, and this is exactly what they wanted, and they're going to live with the spirit of the Supreme Court judgment, I think then the judgment is a success.
Yes, Aryama Sundaram, some doubts. Aryama Sundaram, since you are the senior between Nalin Kohli and yourself, let me ask you these questions, please. There are some genuine doubts that have come to the fore before I go across to Mr. Kohli. Sir, Mr. Sundaram, please tell us, would Imam Bukhari asking voters to vote for secular parties, knowing fully well who these so-called secular parties are, fall foul of the law, or would it mean getting around it? Then,
well, if he is asking for a vote for a particular religion, then it would fall foul of the law now. And it's not for the candidate who's asking it, but Imam Bukhari, who, let us say at that time, the candidate happens to be standing there and it's obvious that he's campaigning for that candidate, then I think the candidate will run foul. And that will definitely be a case which will come up.
Now, my other question is to Mr. Nalin Kohli. Sir, what will somebody like Sadhvi Niranjan Jyoti, Yogi Adityanath, and Sakshi Maharaj and the others, they will all have to change their attire because somebody might point out and saying that you are sending the wrong cues. And this also perhaps is a corrupt practice under the RPA given the wider interpretation.
I think not at all. Actually, now we are getting into the area of amusement.
No, sir, I'm seriously asking you because Mr. Kancha, Professor Kancha Illaiah said, what about the names? The moment you say Sadhvi, moment you say Mahant, and you add these titles, sir, and I'm asking you in seriousness. There is a little bit of jest, yes?
You don't have to be defensive. Anand, you don't have to be defensive.
No, not at all, sir, not at all, not at all.
I'm answering you back in seriousness, so I'm amused. So don't get it.
No, not at all, please go ahead,
It may help you understand where I'm coming from. This is not personal. So what I'm saying is, why I raised that point. Because then you go back to the basic structure of the Constitution. We are all equal, Article 14. We are all allowed to speak in a particular way. We are all treated equal before law, right to life, freedom of expression of speech, all that. Now, the Constitution doesn't define how we should dress, how we should not dress. So you're taking it to an extreme.
No, I'm saying on an electoral platform.
It doesn't mean that now every word is going to be analyzed. The context will be seen.
I say it very clearly in the context of on an electoral platform in a rally in Uttar Pradesh.
Because, hang on, let me finish, young man.
Yes, go ahead.
The point I'm trying to make is very simple, that even a priest, a padri, and imam, they are also as Indian citizens entitled to vote. And there is no restriction on them in that point to vote, because that's the essence of democracy.
No,
so therefore, you can't take it to that extent that just because someone who is now a sadhvi or an imam or a padri cannot vote or stand next to a candidate. But if they appeal in religion, then it's a different matter.
Okay, so Waris Pathan, now let me ask you, what brand of politics will Asaduddin Owaisi adopt? The fact is that in February this year, what did he say? He said, I have not come here to become a leader, but I am talking about unity between Dalits and Muslims, which is the need of the hour. This is a statement made by him on February 5th, 2016. He also said the Samajwadi Party did not give me permission to address a rally in the state for the last 3 years. They have now lost sleep. They are afraid of me. But now I am here. I'll stay in your house and not be bothered about their permission. So asking for unity of Dalits and Muslims. Under the new judgment, now he cannot use both these words when he is campaigning. So what is his politics going to come down to?
I don't think so.
See, as far as the judgment is concerned, let us read the judgment, let us read the reasoning given by the apex court in the judgment, let us interpret it, because earlier the People's Representation Act is already there. We suggest what to say, what not to say, and the election commissioner is there to take care of it. Now as the judgment has come, and as you said that he was denied permission in UP, let me tell you one thing, 2 days prior to today, he was denied permission to hold a rally at Kanpur, but we have challenged that let the code of conduct be there, and we will see how does the election commissioner does give us permission to.
It's not about permission, Waris Pathan. What has happened tonight is
issues in the parliament. Why is he denied permission to raise it in the public?
See, you're also an advocate.
And when Mr. Nalin Kohli is there, I just want to say one thing.
You're also an advocate.
Mr. Kohli is
Waris Pathan, sorry to interview. I have limited time, but you're also an advocate. What has happened today is the interpretation so far was very loose.
Yes.
And political parties largely refrained from taking a bite at the pound of flesh that is available. They had the teeth, but they have not taken the bite. Today, the Honorable Supreme Court has taken the bite, and they have widened the scope. Now, what will happen is every word that you utter or your leaders utter, every word of any political party, what they utter on the electoral platform. Every political party, the others will be watching along with their legal advisors. And you will have a flurry of notices flying thick and fast and representations to the Election Commission with their own interpretations of the RPA. And everybody will be questioned. So the only option tonight is to change the formula.
That is why I said,
You will have to forget the formula of identity politics, of religion politics,
that is what I said,
and perhaps evolve a different formula.
A small point.
let us see how it is
Perhaps evolve a
implemented.
different formula.
Just a small
And,
By all
and
the
perhaps
parties.
take a cue
Let us
from the
see how
Prime
it is
Minister today,
implemented by all the
because he
parties.
did it very smartly in Lucknow. So can you do it across Uttar
Yeah.
Pradesh? Can you do it across Punjab and across the other 5 states that are going to polls? We'll have to see how the other parties come to grips with it. Winding up the debate here on the Newshour on that note, with also a thought: are we as people ready to go beyond identity and vote beyond identity, vote beyond caste, and vote beyond religion? Because a lot of
And
what is
look at
practiced
actual
electorally
report cards and
emerges
actual
from what we as
development
society
agendas
are and what we as
visions of,
society practice.
political parties.
That is the biggest issue, and that's the problem. That's where the core is, because it all comes from society. It's a reflection of who we are. So can we change that? Thank you for joining us on debate number 1.